All right. Good morning, everybody. Sunday, 7:30 a.m., November 8th. Price of Bitcoin currently at $15,179. This morning's analysis is only for Advantage members. I'm going to talk about the price action that's taken place over the last 24, 36 hours or so, because I haven't been that active in the community since yesterday because I take Saturdays off. But I kind of broke my rules a little bit and I still gave y'all some updates just briefly here and there around yesterday morning and yesterday afternoon. So make sure you go read these because you will see that after this movement to the downside happened, right? We were kind of looking at this area over here to hold and maybe give us some long entries, and that's kind of exactly what we did. We dug into the 1 hour time frame somewhere around this area, and we hopped long because if you started to look at this chart over here, especially after this big flush to the downside, right? What we started to print was an ascending triangle. And right around this area is when we went long, okay? Because I was anticipating that the breakout of this, I saw that the pivot is pretty close. And once we started to see that breakout, I felt pretty confident in knowing that more than likely from here, if we hold this pivot, we're probably headed up towards maybe $15,400, maybe like 15,700, something along those lines. So if you go into the long channel right here, okay, um, you could see timestamp and all, 14,892. So 14,900 was our entry. My stop is still below this wick because the reason I have my stop below that wick is because when I see a big flush like this, right, I know for the most part that more than likely we shouldn't revisit anywhere close to these lows. Okay. If I start seeing price head down closer to the lows, probably means something is wrong. Okay. It may mean that, you want to be a little bit careful in your longs. I mean, it's possible that you can add to your longs down here, but, I would generally like to keep my stop below this area. Okay. And I'll show you a couple examples how this candle comes meaningfully right near top of trends, but more importantly, it comes in an area that is heavily crowded long. And you're probably wondering, how do I know it's heavily crowded long? There's a few different ways to do that. Number one, you could look at, say a smaller candle basis like the 4 hour, even though that time frame is not generally small because it's a decently, high time frame. But anyway, you could see, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 candles in a row. So that's 40 straight hours of upside, right? And then of course we had another high printing in. Okay, but that high, note that it was rejected with a strong wick to the downside. Okay, and then we floated sideways. Okay, so this to me is an area of distribution. This was honestly, I mean, of course, this is easier to say in hindsight. I knew for the most part that from here we'd get a bit of a pullback. I just didn't know how deep and how fast it would go. But I didn't really care because I was actually out of my previous BTC long before that. So if you look over here, we had entered a BTC long way the hell back here, which is $14,875. We took the first profit at 15,500. And then the second profit, we were hoping around the 16,000 marker. But what happened was we had also moved our stop closer to 15,400. So all in all, we caught a good almost $1,000 move to the upside and closed that trade. This was on November 6th, right? So we made some good profit out of that. So in any case, going back to my description of why I believe there was longs to be flushed out. So 40 straight hours of upside, right? And then you had a good, I don't know, like 20-ish hours or 24 hours of sideways movement. When you have this kind of sideways movement, okay, what this does is generally in a pause environment after you've ran up like this, you keep, building longs up in this area, but you also put longs right here on edge, okay, meaning a lot of people probably enter long in high leverage situations. So what the market will try to do is it will try to create a flush and seek liquidity to the downside in the fastest manner, meaning where are the highest positions to be liquidated, and how much carnage can it inflict to the downside. And by the way, the algos, the bots, they are very good at timing and calculating these things. So when you get this kind of fast flush to the downside, it doesn't necessarily mean that this is it and we're gonna start rolling over. I mean, it's possible, but more often than not, these kinds of flushes don't happen unless once you've sort of weeded out a bunch of positions, right? So you weed out longs down here. Okay, now what the market is going to try to do is it's going to say, okay, I've taken out enough longs to the downside. What do I do to the upside? Well, then you've got to clean up liquidity to the upside, because here's the thing: when you have big drops like this, this is a pretty sizable drop in one day. So we went from a high of $15,600 down to a low of 14,366. So that's a $1,300 drop, right? So when you have big drops like that, okay, what the market will try to do is it will try to do a mean reversion, right? So when it's trying to mean revert, what I mean by that is if you've gone up too hard, it will try to come back to a point of retracement. If you've gone down too hard, it will come back to a point of retracement, try to find supply, or in the long case, try to find support to the downside again. So this time around, on the way back up, I said, okay, well, we got flushed down really hard. Now is the time you want to start entering some long positions. Okay. So we entered long because of two things, based on two ideas on the premise of entering long. Number one, it was a fast flush to the downside. Number two, this kind of fast flush really scares people. They think that, all right, guys, this is done. Bull market is done. And by the way, to be fair, I actually started seeing that, whether it was people in our own community being a little bit more fearful, or more often than not, it was people on Twitter and just making these crazy posts about alt season is done, or Bitcoin has topped, et cetera, et cetera. And again, it's very possible that it could be, but it's a little bit too early to tell. If you're just following the basic rules of trading, well, Bitcoin, if it's supposed to be done, right? This area was an area of distribution. Price wants to probably gravitate back towards that area and say, all right, if we got flushed to the downside, let's go test how strong these bears are up here. So more than likely, price is going to try to mean revert up here or somewhere close to it. If it starts getting sold off again lower and lower, then we know maybe something is wrong. Again, we don't know something is definitively wrong unless we take out this low. Okay, because this right here, incredible buying activity. Okay, incredible. So you can see there's two big flushes to the downside, right? With these red candles, as you can see right there. Look at the high volume, but yet you see massive absorption of buying activity in this candle right here. So everybody who was selling on the way down, they got bought up down here, right? And now price is mean reverting on the way back up. So that's where I felt a little bit comfortable in saying, okay, maybe we weeded out a lot of the, degenerate long positions, which are 50x, 100x long from back here. And, let's take that mean reversion trade back up. Okay. So you have to be able to recognize these things, by the way, know that at times you can get really great entries based on volatile movements, based on other people's irrational fear in the market, right? There's times in the market where there's rational fear and there's irrational fear. There's rational volatility, and then there's irrational volatility. This flush had combinations of both irrational fear and irrational volatility, right? Because it's irrational volatility because you think that it's going down really hard, really fast, but really, well, I guess you could call it rational volatility or irrational, because, the flush to the downside is going to accelerate because you have, remember, when you're topped up way the hell over here, right? When you're distributing, you just kind of, light the match. okay, up here, meaning create one small, large size sell, which you know the market cannot absorb at this level. And what that does is it creates a cascading effect, meaning stops get hit right there, those run into stops right there, those run into other stops, and these run into liquidations right down here, liquidations, boom. Before you know it, you have a massive, absorption candle right here, which buys up all these people who were stopped out or liquidated. Okay, that's how supply and demand works when it comes to these, high volatility environments. All right. Anyway, I feel like I've rambled on about that, but I wanted to explain to you guys the psychology behind these movements because people don't understand generally like why things like this happen. They know that, you know, oh crap, we dropped $1,300 and I'm scared, but think about it rationally, why it happened. Um, why it happened and how should you react to that? Okay. All right. Aside from the Bitcoin leverage long that we took yesterday, again, our entry is 14,900. We're still looking for targets around, where is it? Oh, 15,375 is where I'm going to take a major cut to my position because that's the previous supply area. We're chopping around, right? I mean, we're above this daily pivot. If you didn't get a chance to get into this, maybe you could go long right here. Maybe you might get lucky with another tap down here um, for the for another long position, which is around 15,000 or so. Again, the risk to reward is pretty darn good to the upside, at least 15.4. It's possible that maybe we even head back up towards these highs, but for now, I only see prices reaching towards this high. And how we react towards this high of 15,375, 15,400, then we'll get to decide, okay, once we get up here, do we get a sharp rejection to the downside, or do we kind of just, come back, grind, and then pop back up? Okay. All right. The other position, like I was saying earlier, we took a DeFi leverage long once again because it was pretty solid that we hit our $13 target, as you can see. This was 2 days ago, right over here. Again, good point of distribution right here, right around 13, 13.3, 13.5. And you guys know we've been talking about these levels for a little while, probably for like a couple weeks. And so we finally reached that level, right? Excuse me. So we finally reached that level, and guess what happened? Well, we got a strong rejection out of it, as we should. Okay. But then what happened? Okay. On the 4-hour time frame, again, we came back to the pivot right here, which is the weekly pivot. More importantly, this yellow line, if you look across the board, right, it's support right there, resistance right there, resistance right there, turns into support, breaks down. Again, resistance right there, smashes right up through, and now support. Okay. So if this is support now, all right, and we start reaching towards this high once more, it's game over. That means we are headed up much, much higher because this is really the last resistance level left, in my opinion, towards, I guess we have a little bit of resistance right here around 17.5 or 17.4, but probably back towards, previous all-time high for Link. But again, we have to get past this, red block of bears just waiting to sell. Okay. But the point is, we did our job, right? We did our job of, good technical traders and said, let's take profit up here because this is resistance. So your job is not to think about if resistance is going to be broken and I'm going to hold on to this position because I know for sure resistance is going to be broken. That's not the point. Okay. Your job is to take profit in this area. And then, look for technicals supporting your thesis of price going up continuously, again, potentially. And if that is supported, you can enter back in even with the profit that you took right here, which is exactly what we did, right? So we took $13. We took profit at $13. Our entry was $10.50. We caught 1/3 of our position. That was a 24% profit. Okay. And then yesterday evening, we re-entered back in, right? We entered back in around 1180 or something, 1185, and that was with the profit that I took at $13. Sometimes the market gives you these very, very unique opportunities where you can trim, take some money, get back in at a better price, make some more money. And you can see, after rebuying in some of my position at 1188 or so, we're back up again from yesterday, right? Yesterday we bought in way over here or so. So already up, 3.6, 3.7%. All right. But now again, we need to make sure this high is broken. You don't want to ping pong around this area too long. All right. You want to just get the nice breakout to the upside, leave all the sellers, in here behind. But as I'd stated the last couple of days, when you have big upside movements like this, okay, whether it was altcoins right here, again, one of the other reasons why I took profit up here, or BTC, over here, when we start taking profit up here, just remember that the reason I say these things is because sometimes it just comes simply down to volatility, right? Volatility and the amount of outsized movements that you've made. Okay, so when you have big movements to the upside, just relax, breathe, take your profit, let the market calm down, and then you can re-enter when you get flushes like this. More often than not, when the market has massive movements, there's a consolidation, there's some flushes that happen, and that's really when you want to enter. Okay. Bitcoin dominance continuously, coming down over the last couple of days. Great sign. This again opens up the doors for altcoins. I've been very, uh, carefully watching the Bitcoin dominance, and in correlation with that, Bitcoin price, and in correlation with that, altcoin prices, right? I feel like, the previous trades that we had of ETH and Link, which were back here, were the same thesis, but we were early. Now it seems like, okay, maybe our thesis was right. It's just we were timed too early. And again, I'm not trying to, justify my decision making for being long over here, and then basically closing out some of my positions back here for Link and ETH. But the point is, our thesis was right. Unfortunately, the timing was wrong. That's as good as being wrong, right? And that's okay. But we re-entered back in because we knew that our thesis was right. And so we entered long right here in Link. We entered long around the same area in Ethereum and Bitcoin. So far over the last couple of days, I mean, we've made some solid gains. If you look at some of the people who have messaged me or gains reviews right here, right? People have made some really great profits and really great trades. So if you guys are struggling with anything, if you're struggling with take profits, or if you're struggling with entries, re-entries, how to size up, how to size down, make sure you post your struggles in this channel and I can answer them, or you can message me as always, because that's what you pay for, right? You're paying for Advantage membership to have the accessibility to our community, to myself. And I promise you that, there are many people in our community who are incredibly helpful, and they will help you because, people have gone through the same struggles of either taking profits too late or getting stopped or tight stops. Any issue that you think you're having, I guarantee you that other people are still having, or they have gotten over and have figured out over time, how to get over these things. Okay. Anyway, again, I hope this analysis was helpful. I think I've made my analysis for ETH and Link pretty clear over the last several days. I still do believe that we should be looking for more upside, but again, we got to take out these highs. Okay? We definitely got to take out these highs, because until then, I honestly don't know. I honestly don't know if we're going to make, maybe another small retracement down and then push back up. Okay. All right, folks, I'll leave it at that. I'll probably be doing a video with Faisal later today talking about the economy, Biden being president-elect and what that means for the stock market going ahead. And yeah, it should be a great conversation. Anyway, I hope this information was helpful. I hope you get to look at these analysis from my view and my standpoint of how I look at the market. All right. Cheers.